Hey guys, I'm Hunter, and today we're gonna play with some Mixol. So this is a live video, so before you go skipping around, just hang out for a moment. Um, there is a chat feature that's very different than comments. So what you would want to look for if you're doing this on playback is down underneath your window, there should probably be like a chat icon of some sort. And if you bring that up, what you'll see is you'll see the chat that's gonna be going on through this video. So you'll probably see me responding to some comments that I'm going to get and monitor on the screen, and that'll like clue you into what I'm talking about. But more importantly, what I'm going to do is I will leave comments to kind of bookmark what we're going to be doing, so you can skip around and find exactly the clip you're looking for. So those comments or bookmarks I'm going to put in will have a timestamp next to it, and that time is going to be the time within the video. So you should be able to skip right to it. So anyway, we're gonna dive into this thing. So if you're not familiar with me, I build cornhole boards and typically do intricate wood stains. I usually do traditional wood stain shades. However, I have experimented a little bit with Mixol. I would not say I'm a pro. So I'm going to be experimenting today and just bringing you guys along with me on that process. So I'm going to be testing it out. I've got a set to do where my customer would like to match these two colors. So I've got kind of like a nice bright yellow, and then I've got a somewhat hunter green. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be mixing this with gel stains, and I'm going to be playing with different types of gels. So I run a builder, or I'm sorry, I help run a builder's forum, and one of the common questions asked about Mixol is like, what base do you use? So in my little experience I do have with Mixol, the answer is definitely going to depend on what shade you're going for. So that's why I want to experiment with you guys and kind of help you understand before you dive into Mixol the impact that the stain can have, so that way you don't end up wasting any. So I just want to take you through some of my experimentation, and I want to try to represent Mixol as well as I can, because honestly, like it's a bit over my head as to like how it all works. So I reached out to Mixol USA on Instagram.com. I know that her name is Joanne. It feels like a very small company that is just like really welcoming and grateful for every customer that they get. So just in the few times that I've been able to use them, they repost my work, they repost everybody's work that I see on there. And so I don't know, it just feels like a great company to do business with. But I did reach out to her for a little guidance to try to get a good explanation of what Mixol is, so I don't accidentally misrepresent it. So it's a universal tint. Okay, so it is stressed that it's a tint and not a dye, and it's pigment based. All right, so it's universal, which means it can be mixed with pretty much anything. So you've got water based, solvent based, and high quality oil based materials. So it did mention high quality, so I just want to kind of pass that along. So if you're using like the cheapest oil based stuff you can find, this may not be the product for you. But it is pigment based. So I had to Google that as to why that matters versus dye. And pigments are like mud. They're finely ground particles of color which are suspended in a medium such as water to create paint or coloring agents. Dyes are chemicals like sugar that are dissolved in a medium such as water to create a paint or coloring agent, but the particles are physically, not chemically bound. I don't know what that means. Apparently those are different. All I know is it's kind of like gravity. It just freaking works. So I'm gonna move on past that. So we have got basically, she mentioned that there are 33 different colors, and I have them all. Let's see here. We've got different color caps, and so of these 33 colors, 15 of them have a red cap, and those are going to be your oxide ones. So the other ones are not. Okay, so the all of them are not going to expire. They are going to like just stay in the bottle. They're not going to dry out or anything like that. There are 3 of these that are metallics, and those only have a 3-year shelf life though. So just a look out there. That's a pretty substantial shelf life, but basically they won't dry out over time. They're easily dispersed or mixed into a material, and they don't sink or settle out like a mica powder. So I've seen that on Instagram. Obviously, a lot of people who do resin pours use like a powder, And so if you were using that kind of a powder, it could eventually like settle out of your mixture. So then the color that you created, if you didn't get to use it in some way, could settle out, whereas this is going to stay suspended until you use it. I will say though, while Mixol lasts forever, basically, we're going to be using gel stain, and gel stain doesn't last forever. So you're going to just want to only mix what you need. So then you got 15 oxides, and basically oxides are going to tint everything stated above, so I didn't cover those. So the things that you can tint are going to be like epoxy, stain, paint, wax, glue, grain filler, putty, lacquer, poly, plaster, shellac, and resin. I will not touch a lot of those, but that's awesome. And then oxides are going to tint all of those, plus more complex materials such as silicone, concrete, grout, chalk, paint, lime, plaster, cement. And basically, they're just like the oxide ones are going to be fade resistant, and they're going to be geared more towards like outdoor materials, so like concrete. So it's kind of impressive that like this little bottle is going to like tint some concrete. So next time I'm looking for some pink stairs, I'm getting my Mixol and my concrete. But anyway, it's pretty awesome. The oxide ones are UV resistant. So I don't know. I just thought that was pretty neat and pretty special. So I do have like a full line here, and I'm going to be using some of those today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So let's see here. Sweet. I've got somebody on the East Coast joining in. It's like 11:45 p.m. there. That's awesome. Thank you, Joseph. Hey, Joseph, since you're in here, buddy, can you hear me pretty well? Like, is the audio doing all right? All right, sweet. So I just did my first bookmark there. So if anybody's watching and wants to kind of help out, if you see me move on to something new and I'm not touching the keyboard, I would appreciate it if you to remind me, just so I'm trying to make a video that's going to be useful for multiple people. So I see comments that people will like to like just kind of go along at real speed and just experience something so they can kind of learn the ins and the outs. Whereas like some people would like just kind of like a really brief like kind of touch over. So I feel like the Mixols are a little bit complicated, so I'm going to try to explain the best as I can as I go through this, and then I do have those bookmarks so you can skip around and just find what you want. So and on the playback, the live guys are just going to get to suffer with me. So I do want to mention that this isn't like a sponsored video in any sort of way. I'm just a really big fan of Mixol. I'm going to be talking a lot about general finishes. I'm a really big fan of theirs. And then I'm going to be drinking a lot of Modelo, and I'm a really big fan of theirs. So I am open for sponsorships, and I'm willing to sell out. So if any of the three of you guys are watching and would like to throw some money my way, I'm okay with that. So that being said, though, Mixol, like I said, they're super supportive. I came up with like a fun hashtag Mixol Magic, and I don't know, like she appreciated like kind of how fun it was, and it like took off a little bit, and did send me a gift. So I thought the least I could do is try to do a demo video, and I will just go through some of the Mixol. And General Finishes has also been super supportive, and they sent me some free product. I will probably be using one of the stains that I got for as a gift, so I feel like I should disclose that, but I buy the rest of it. So anyway, so there are a couple choices. So starting off with Mixol, you want to know what color like shade should you start out with. Okay, so what I'm going to do is my first one I'm going to do is going to be New Pine. So New Pine by General Finishes is like a very, very light shade of stain. So it's so light that on some like medium grain color shades of birch, I've had my New Pine just kind of disappear once poly hits it. So it's like as good as clear, but it does have a little bit of coloring to it, but that's about the lightest stain I've seen, and it's definitely the lightest I have. The next one I'm going to do is Nutmeg. So I just used it for the second time the other day, and it was a little darker than I recall, but it is, I would say, a very medium brown. So it's definitely not dark, but it is medium. And then I'm going to be using white. So white is one that you like common sense wise, you're thinking white's a good idea. The other common sense thing is I'm gonna start with clear, okay? And sorry, I just wanted to see if there were any questions there. So what we're gonna be looking at is new pine. So new pine's a very light stain, and just kind of like a little preview of what you should expect is there's not much color to tint, which means that basically the pigment that we're gonna be adding to it is pretty much just gonna show through on its own. So to use that in some terms of a color like blue, which we're not gonna do today, if you are interested in blue, I covered it at length in the center of a live session I did last week. The cover picture has a sports team with a navy blue star. So if you want to seek that out, I do go through blue. Blue is probably one of the more common colors, and I did this exact same experiment with blue. But to go back to what new pine's going to do, once you add blue to new pine, it's just going to be the blue from the bottle. So if you were to take a shade, I'm going to grab one that I'm actually going to use. Oh, just kidding. I think the newer bottles have the colors on them. I've actually had these for a little while. I just don't use it as often. You will see a sticker on the top, and I've found that is a pretty accurate representation of the color. But that's pretty much what you're going to get with new pine, is it's going to come out looking a lot like the color on the top. Do not worry about the color that's in the bottle or the color that you're going to mix, because it definitely is not going to look like that. It's going to look a lot like the color on the top with new pine. Then whenever you get into a darker shade, basically what's happening is it already has a color, and this pigment's going to be tinting that color. And so this darker color is going to kind of like deepen the shade. So if you were to do blue and new pine, it's going to come out, if you look at it, it's kind of like an electric blue. It's not really like the kind of blue that you are really shopping for whenever you think of blue. That would be Ocean Blue 99. But the number 9 regular blue is going to come out like a little electric with this. But then you move to a medium shade and you're going to kind of get like a darker blue that's definitely kind of going down the path of like a navy. And then you got white, and white's another common sense one where you're just like, sweet, this is going to give me like a straightforward color. This is going to create some pastels. So what I want to do is I'm going to find the colors I'm looking for, and then we will try out those 3. So let's see. All right, so I do have a large thing of yellow, which is actually almost empty, so I'm running a little low. I've got some reserve bottles back here. And then I'm going to be doing green for the first time. So Mixol is a German company, and so Sepp Leaf is the company that is importing it from Germany, and they are like the US distributor. So I think Joanne, I don't really know her full title, but like she's running like the Instagram. I believe she's like does the sales. She's like the reason that it's at like Woodcraft and like Rockler and stuff like that. So, and then you'll see like all kinds of shops that they celebrate every single time they get into a new shop, and it's a post. So it's really cool. But so the label is going to be in German, and luckily I speak a little German. This says Grasgrün, which I believe is German for grass green. So I'm going to grab that, and then if I run out of that, I do luckily have the Oxide Grasgrün, and so that, from what I understand, should be pretty similar. I think it costs a little more though. But anyway, I might run out, but I'm going to use that. So kind of talking about running out, the big lookout is you don't need much stain to get started. So on my first outing with this, I definitely wasted my entire Mixol thing. I got in too much stain, then I just ended up using way too much Mixol, then I had to add more stain. And I just kind of, it's a very frustrating process if you do it wrong. So that's kind of the whole reason I want to make this video, is it doesn't really need to be like that. So what I like to do is I use condiment cups, which are basically like your salsa cups from the Mexican restaurant. Just get yourself a little thing to stir it with. And then basically we're just going to do like a little dollop of stain. So what I'm going to be staining is going to be a shape very similar to this, in that very similar color. And it's only going to be going on one board. So I really don't need much. And then these condiment cups came with a lid. They're not very airtight, so I will need to use this within the week, and I plan to stain that board tomorrow or the next day. So I'm not gonna make a ton, and because I don't need a lot, and I'm gonna put this little lid on it. I do have a buddy, a AG Woodcrafts. He's found like a better version of this that has like a connected lid, and I believe he's gotten up to 2 weeks out of it. So just to kind of give you like a frame of reference that I really need to use this in the next couple days, he's gotten up to a couple of weeks. So don't try to like mix like a whole ton of this, because your stain is going to dry it out. So anyway, I'm going to dive in. I think I'm most concerned about the green, and I'm itching to do that, so I'm going to get started. This is a hole cut out from one of my cornhole boards, which I find to be a very convenient base for my stain. So what I like to do is I like to even not only just test this, but I like to kind of strategize that test. So a little call out is testing on something so small doesn't really give you like a great indication on what you're going to get. But anyway, it's about the best I can do. So I'm going to go with that. But if you have the means, if you test on a bigger area, it definitely gives you like a much more accurate depiction. I feel like sometimes I'm a little surprised if I just have like a little square as to what the final result looks like compared to that test. But anywho, so I'm going to grab my condiment cup, which I thought I just had out. And I don't know if it's necessary to shake Mixol, but I shake it because I shake my stain, and I think this said it's not going to settle out and it doesn't dry, so I'm pretty certain that I don't need to shake that. I am going to start with new pine, because that's just probably going to be your most common one. So I'm going to bookmark this bad boy. All right. All right, so I'm going to, for the sake of like kind of comparing colors, I'm gonna try to get as close as I can to like equal amounts of stain on here. So I'm gonna do a little glob there. All right, so it doesn't hold a lot. It's not like really like a spoon, so I might do a second little glob. So 2 globs is my measuring unit for the stain. And then so it's not a lot of stain, so I'm not gonna try to do a lot of Mixol. Obviously, if you overdo the Mixol, then you're gonna be like really kind of fighting it to dilute it back down. So she did mention in the explanation, so it can just kind of color a stain, so the stain's like transparent. So I can have like a translucent green and give myself like a really great green stain, or if I overdo it, this is going to become very opaque, and I'm going to have like basically like some green paint, and that would be very expensive green paint, so I'm not going to go for that. So I'm going to be going, I find that this kind of comes out in a little bit more of like a stream than drops whenever I do a little bit. So all right, drops is it is. So I'm going to start out with 5 drops, and 2 globs is my ratio right here. So I'm going to try to keep that somewhat equal. And yeah, never mind. So I'm just gonna mix that up. I'm mixing some brown, mixing some green, and honestly, this is coming out looking a little bit green, but on a lot of these other ones, it will be hard to tell. It's just gonna look terrible in here, and then it'll apply beautifully. So green and blue are some pretty special colors. Like whenever you do them, like your grain really just gets a little trippy. It's almost even hard to photograph, like kind of confuses the camera, but it gets deep and awesome real fast. So I got that. All right, not sure where to put stuff, but if you're curious about any of the supplies that I'm using, they are all listed on cornholecollective.com/supplies. I will go back tomorrow and add that into the description, because this video is going to take forever to upload tonight. But if you go to the cornholecollective.com/supplies, you're going to find our supplies list. We break that into every phase of building a cornhole board. So if you're not a cornhole builder, you could still go into that supplies list, and you're going to, at the top I'll have all the headings, but I think this is going to be under design or decorating, something to that effect. You'll click that, it'll take you down to, it's going to show you my stains. General finishes will be linked there. It'll show you the Mixol links. It'll be individual colors, so if you want to shop them individually, or like you could get the 1 through 12 or 12 through 24 or 1 through 24, and basically, I am more of a fan of probably like 1 through 12 is going to hit like some of your core colors. Like you'll get the blue, the red, the violet, the orange, the yellow. You'll get black in there, and then you're going to want to go through and pick out a couple other colors. Like 13 was green, and then white is number 25, which it included any of those two sets. And then 99 is like the super popular one. I believe the reason it's 99 is because blue and violet make like a really awesome blue. 9 times 11 is 99, and I think that this is just a combination of those two. It comes in a nice ratio. Personally, I do like the control of mixing both of them separately, so I like having all three of those options. And then they have the golds and stuff if you want those. So all that's going to be listed. I do like to stain personally with these foam pieces. This is just like furniture foam. So I got like a 2 foot by 6 foot piece of foam, and I just tear off like a little corner. So this thing was like 45 bucks, but it's lasted me like 75 stain jobs. So it goes a really long way. You could just buy less of it that's already pre-cut at a craft store. It will just cost you more in the long run. But all right, so I've got my hole cut out. I would like to call out too, I prepped this like I would a cornhole board, so I've already sanded this to my final grit, so that way the result I get here should be what I can expect on my cornhole board. So what I want to do is I want to see what the stain is on its own. I want to see what the stain is with the color, and then I'm wanting to compare those results with the 3 different stains. So I'm going to strategize that, and I'm going to do all that on one cutout. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and give myself my first little square here. All right, so I'm going to start out with a little new pine here. Wipe that on. So I'll try to hold this up and show you, but later in the video I'll walk around and kind of bring it up closer to the camera for the final results. However, my shop is super tight, and this is like a little gauntlet to get through, so I'm not going to do that every single time. All right, so I've got my new pine on there. So now what I want to do is set up for the next color. So I'm going to be doing a quick and dirty, what I call a remask. So I am masking off that new pine so I can see that end result. I'm going to reveal the next section. And so now I've got my next square, and I am going to do this combo with just the green. Not sure why. This kind of did this in the Dallas set too. For some reason, my samples are coming out very faint, but on the board, they're coming out very bold. So it's kind of odd. But anyway, this is giving me a hint at the green, and I am probably looking really close already. It's kind of getting in the neighborhood of a grass green. So what I could do, because I'm so close, but I'm not quite where I want to be, is I could try to just darken this up. So I start out with a super light stain. So then I added some green, and so now I'm just getting that green on its own, and it was called grass green. This does seem to be a little bit more of a hunter green, so I should know from the onset that I need to darken that up. So I'm going to grab my buddy Mixol 1, and I'm just going to do a single drop here. I'm going to shake that up. That definitely looks like that may have been clear. So I feel good about shaking this each time I use it now. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, that's been sitting for about 8 months, so. Awesome. Hey, I really appreciate all these comments, by the way. The conversation that you guys kind of drive through here really makes it a little less weird to just be standing in front of the camera. So I really do appreciate these comments. I see that honestly, like, we seem to have like a bunch of friends from the group and some names that I don't see or don't recognize. So welcome everybody. Thank you. All right, so I'm now going to remask my second shade that I did in the green. And then I'm going to reveal a next square, and then this is now 2 globs of stain, 4 drops of green, and 1 drop of black. So all right, so I can kind of reveal this, and I am not seeing a very big definition difference between these two. So I could possibly do like another drop of black. So I could continue on that path. You know what? I will continue on that path because I might as well just get that option as close as I can with New Pine. So we're now up to 2 drops black. Just kind of verbalizing that so I can do this similar. So I actually dropped 2 in there by accident, so I'm up to 3 drops black. So this should definitely give me a bit of a change. And I got a comment from Swizzies saying, thanks for these videos, very helpful. So I've been trying to do a bit more live videos. I have a lot of staining to do in the next week, couple weeks, so figured I might as well try to make the most of it. There was a positive response to the live videos, so I'm very happy to hear that it's appreciated. And if you have any feedback where I'm new at this, like I would love your feedback on what I could do to make this video more functional for you guys. All right, cool. So I got a bit of a jump there. Not sure why it seems to be kind of oiled down. I don't know if maybe I got like a thin part of my gel stain, but it is quite translucent. I feel like that is a recipe I would duplicate again because my test kind of came out weird before I would go staining, but I think I may have actually kind of hit my color there. So I'm going to write this down. So I'm going to do an NP for New Pine, and then I got NP and 4 drops green, and then 4 drops green and 3 black. Cool. So that way I can kind of go back whenever I look back, because I'm going to have a lot of tests here. So all right, cool. So that is New Pine. So like I said, I mean, that kind of turned out very similar to what I expected. So New Pine gave me the color straight from the bottle, which is cool, but like I've only got 33 colors, which isn't like a ton, right? So you're gonna have to mix some and get around. And then honestly, I'm going for a darker shade of green. So I do believe a darker stain is gonna get me there. So unfortunately, this is a little bit more of a bigger step than I would want. I would love to shoot for like a Minwax cherry wood, but I don't have a Lowe's here, so I'm still waiting on that to come in the mail. But this is Nutmeg, which is very close. I would say it's just maybe a little darker than the cherry wood. So we're gonna give that a go. So I got a question, how far does a typical small bottle of Mixol last you if you have a rough estimate? So that's kind of a loaded question. So I'm going to assume we're talking about Cornhole, obviously. So if you guys aren't familiar with Cornhole, we're talking about a 2 foot by 4 foot board. It's gonna come in a pair. So basically 4 feet by 4 feet, 16 square feet that would be staining. So really, I think it's gonna just kind of depend on what color you're going for. So like with this darker shade of green, and I'm gonna be tinting something, I'm gonna have to use more green on this. But I would say, honestly, like if you are good at mixing and kind of portioning stuff out, like, so, I don't know, like, I don't know, it kind of looks like stains going up on the side, but at the bottom you can see this is kind of like translucent, like that is probably gonna get me, I think I'm doing just like the text for like the team name, and it's kind of small up at the top, and I'm going to be doing a border. I'd have to do more than this. I think from the days I worked in a pharmacy, there's 14 drops per milliliter. This is 20 milliliters, so that's like roughly, I don't know, like 280 drops. So I don't know. I'd say it'd probably get me like through 3 or 4 sets. This is like the price on this stuff is gonna really depend on where you're getting it from, but it's not gonna last like a terribly long time. So you want to factor that into your cost. However, that's why God invented these bad boys, and so this just really takes a lot of the pressure off because the price drop per ounce is significant to get into these. So I would just definitely shift over to this, but if you're doing like, you know, full boards in that color, you're gonna run out of stuff pretty quick. And then if you're not really good with your mixing, you're gonna run out fast. And then if you're doing things like this, where I'm just trying to fine tune and find that color, like I'm gonna waste a lot on purpose, but like that is the process. So whenever you're experimenting, like you will waste a bit, but I'm gonna try to give you as many tips as I can to kind of just get you started off on the right foot. But do expect to kind of go through it fast at the beginning, and then as you get it more dialed in, you'll do well. So anyway, sorry, I can't give you a finite answer on that one. Cool. So yeah, I got somebody, same question. Bond is saying that he's never used Mixol. He uses the baby wipe method with acrylic. Basically, that's just kind of get a similar effect using paint. It is a cool method. I don't really have paints on hand, but you can go out, you can buy paint, and you're gonna get like a full bottle of the color, and then you can apply it very similarly to stain. And you can kind of just get it in the shade that you're looking for, which is cool. However, like sometimes you gotta like create that shade. Or for me, like currently I'm like a stay-at-home dad and I got 2 kids, and the idea of going to a craft store to get like a shade of paint doesn't sound like a lot of fun. So I like to have all this, and I can just make what I need in the window of time I've got. So we're doing a live at like 9 p.m. on Pacific time right now. That's my window of time I get to like do this stuff, and the last thing I want to do is be at a Michael's, which I believe is closed anyway. But baby white method has its place. In my experience, like every color doesn't react the exact same way. So I don't know. It's not bad. I just really do enjoy Mixol, and then honestly, like like working with the company and knowing that everything is gonna work just like my gel stains that I'm used to is just kind of comforting. So, but there is a little bit of a learning curve, and you get to mix some stuff up. It's kind of fun. I don't know. I enjoy it. All right, cool. So I'm gonna move on to let's try out Nutmeg. So what I did is now I'm going to remask my first 3 things. And then I'm going to reveal a little area for just the straight up nutmeg. And what I'm going to end up with at the very end is it's going to be like a nice little paint palette of everything touching, so I can kind of see that effect. All right, so where it was a little oily, I'm assuming that was probably my gel stain, so I'm going to shake this up a little bit. I left my little can opener thing across the shop. All right, so if you recall, we had a stir stick and we had 2 globs. So this one had a lot of drying out because I use it often, and I am untalented at putting stain away, so it definitely dried and skinned over. This one's nice and fresh. That was like a glob and a half by comparison to the other, so I'm just gonna do like a little bit. Ba-boom. Okay, so I got my 2 globs. If you want to make your mix all go a long way, portion yourself accordingly. You just want to start out really small. As you are on the journey of fine-tuning your color, you may even add more stain. So when I first got into Mixol, I needed to do a very fun set for Sunbum, and I had to do a yellow, and I had an 8-set order, which was great. And I went through, I would say like I ended up doing about like a third of this bottle, but like basically I added in my stain. I was doing new pine, then added this, and I was adding white, and then I had gone too far, so I needed to add in more stain. And this thing ended up overflowing by the time I got to use it, and I think I still had half of it left after doing 8 sets. So it was just like a logo that was like pretty big on the board. So that might be an indication of how far it'll go as well. But yeah, I think it'll just depend on the size of the design. So I'm going to bookmark this. I'm doing nutmeg and green. All right, so I've done my 2 globs, and I'm going to shake this up again, and then I am looking for 4 drops of green. Grass green. German for grass green. All right, got my 4 drops. So you just do want to stir it up really well too. Those 4 drops disappeared in this darker stain like immediately. So like kind of mixing those lighter shades, I could see that it took a minute to mix it all up. So where you're just dropping in some drops, it's very easy for that drop to just be on like one section of the stain. So mix that up. So now I am looking at a stain color that is very similar to this, maybe kind of like a more of like a muddier, goopier, like this is like pure trash color. But once I apply it, it will be a very different story. So I got a question, what stains do I keep on hand? So I've got this on my Instagram Burley bags. My most recent post was this little build. So I am a big fan of General Finishes. They're premium stain, so they're gonna cost more than like Minwax or Varathane, and that's because they're better. Mixol says that they work with high quality oil-based. Well, I've got that, and that's another reason I'm gonna stick with this. And if you use them side by side, you will definitely see why. So real quick, the stain colors like that I love, you got New Pine. New Pine's your very lightest one. It's not gonna work on every type of wood, but that is just like a super light one. And then a step up in contrast is gonna be Nutmeg. So that's kind of like a big step. You probably have to shop another brand to kind of get in between, but that's gonna be a nice medium shade. And then up from there, it's gonna be Java. So those, oh, I'm so sorry, up from there to Walnut. And that's kind of like a medium dark, and then up from there is Java. And so those, I've done those in a set before, and it is a very nice jump in colors. So I have those on hand. Then I've got black, because black is awesome. And then I've got gray, it's fun. Georgian cherry is really cool. It's kind of got like a reddish tint to the brown. And then walnuts, I have a brown mahogany. Honestly, I just got that, and I don't really use it. Scott Moss with Moss Boards, he runs the collective with me. He does a bit more mahogany, and you see that in his work. I don't know why I haven't gotten the courage to use much of that. Prairie Wheat is another one that I really love. That is a step down from Nutmeg in darkness, but it is just a little bit of a step down, but it's also going to be like kind of skewed over towards yellow. So it's going to be kind of like a golden color, which is fantastic. It and Java are like my go-to combo. So I love those. Those are kind of my go-tos, and then I'll supplement with some other brands. So like I said, Minwax Cherrywood is good. And on good word from Scott Moss, Varathane Cherrywood is not as good as Minwax. So I'm going to avoid that. And then I've got Old Masters. So Old Masters is another line that has some good colors, and there are gonna be like some premium stains, but I got Crimson Fire, which is pretty much red. So that one's a good one to have. So those are my go-to stains. So I got a question, have I tried using Mixol with brands other than General Finishes? And I have not personally, because I don't really use much. So far, like I have some experience, like I've done maybe 10 sets with Mixol, give or take, but I have done New Pine every single time. So right now, like doing these videos is like the first time I've really experienced mixing with others. It was just my interactions in the group with other builders to see what they got is like where I learned about, like, you know, using cherry wood, for example, is probably like a great step to get like kind of a deeper shade. So if you're shooting for this hunter green, which I'm shooting for, starting with Prairie Wheat, I'm sorry, New Pine is just like a little light. It would make sense to use a cherry wood. What I've got is Nutmeg. I would say cherry wood is kind of close in the middle between New Pine and Nutmeg. So cherry wood's there in the middle. I just don't have it because I don't know, whatever vendor on Amazon is taking some time. So all right, so I have made a mistake from talking, and I went ahead and did my sample of green with nutmeg where I meant to do just plain nutmeg. So I will just mask off and get those alternating. But this is looking like kind of like a brownish hunter green. This is too dark for me. I would need to add more green to get that color. I don't believe this is gonna work, but I will test by adding more green and see if we get there. Because in that email I got from Joanne from Mixol, it did say that by adding more, basically, you can get a more opaque finish. So it's telling me that I can turn this green and it will be dark, but like right now I'm at like an army green, so. All right, so shaking up my stain was definitely the issue of why my new pine came out so oily and kind of clear. So let's mask that off, and now I'm going to add in more green with this nutmeg and see if we can somehow take a step back from army green. You know what? I am gonna do, because I really do want to see stuff side by side, so I'm gonna do, since I'm only doing like 3 shades, I'm gonna do a 4th one that's redoing that first thing so I can just see it again later, right next to the one I'm about to do. So like that's the way I test, is I want to see some stuff right next to each other. All right, let's add some more green. In my assessment, like that kind of only got me halfway there, so I'm gonna start off with another 4 drops of green. Oh my God, come on, drop. Oh yeah, Scott mentioned Candlelight. I don't know why that's not right here. Weird. Maybe it's in a box unpacked or something. Oh, cool. I might have more stains somewhere. But Candlelight is a cool one. It's got like kind of that orangish color. It's like basically like a darker Prairie Wheat. So I don't know. Some of those colors kind of sound weird, but like whenever you start getting into some designs, like I did a multiple tiered sunset in the desert, and those came out great. So I had like a Georgian cherry, which is red. I had the Candlelight, which is like kind of like a reddish orange. And then I had Prairie Wheat, which was like kind of golden. So they all layer really well, which is cool. But sometimes you got to get that color. All right, so now I got 8 drops of green. Oh man, that's looking freaking good. Wow, okay, that really did just overtake the brown and kind of got rid of the army green thing. I don't know. Like I said, I'm probably gonna use the back of one of these with like the one that I end up thinking is gonna be the closest. If I have 2 that are really close, I'll probably like split it in half and try like a bigger section. Like I was saying, like sometimes this is a little like square inch isn't gonna be enough to really tell, but I can definitely rule some things out. So that is a contender. So now I'm just gonna remove these this tape and kind of compare. And I'll bring this up once we finish with green and show you the results. And in case you're like taking any notes on quantities, I'm just trying to help you with my proportions so you kind of get an idea of how much to use and stuff, but definitely don't think of it as like a recipe. There's really not a great way to measure this, and you're gonna need to fine tune. Definitely, like I feel like stains are even different from can to can, and my wood is definitely different from sheet to sheet on how it's absorbing stuff. So you're gonna have to experiment with it. It's just it's a fun process though, so set yourself up for some fun. All right, so now I'm gonna do white, which is gonna be an obvious fail, but because it is going to be pastel. But I just want to show you what that's gonna look like. So. Because you kind of, if you thought white was a good idea, you might not trust me. So let's just take a look at it. So general finish is white. This is, I've used it on 1 set. I did not shake it very well, and it came out kind of like a pickling stain if you've ever used one. It's pretty much just like water, and it just lightens the wood. It was really not enjoyable. Then on my Blue Star sports team live video that I did last week, in my experiment, I did use white and blue. And when I shook it up better, I definitely got more of a gelatinous texture, and it worked really well. I do want to call out one of my good friends, his name is Stetson Dow, and he is with Bold City Boards, and he uses white. It's not this white, but he uses another white stain, and the way it works is great. So it's not necessarily like creating like a white. You will need to build up to a white, but what it does is it actually, like I'm a big fan, if you look at any of my work, on layering stains and kind of like going across the spectrum with contrasting chunks. So I do like my Java, and I do my walnut, and I do my nutmeg, and then I do my prairie wheat, and then I have raw wood. And those are all nice, great jumps. White, like if you do a coat of that, is like a whole other jump, it going in a lighter thing. And his, like it makes it look like that was the original wood color. So it's just like the way he uses white's really fun. So he's like the one who inspired me to use this. And I had a heck of a time using it without shaking it. It took like 10 coats. So now I've mixed it up and I hope to get a better result this time. I can definitely tell looking at it, it's not running all over the place. This is definitely a gel stain. So I'm excited to use that again on some sort of set. I'll have to design around that. So I got my little square cut out for that. Oh yeah, so Moose Boards, if you're not familiar with him, he's another super awesome, talented stainer. He's called out some colors here: American Oak, Colonial Maple, Java, Georgian Cherry, and New Pine. So, I don't know. Can you tell me, are Colonial Maple and American Oak, are those general finishes also? I haven't gotten them, so I'm not familiar with the colors that I don't use. So yeah, just like shaking that up, like I can already see, like it was so thick I have to like wipe off the excess, but it doesn't really absorb into the wood, and it is kind of light. So I know you can't really like see too well, but that doesn't look super white. You probably is undiscernible from the distance you're at. So this is like a little bit. So let's get out another condiment cup. If you're enjoying any of this information, by the way, guys, if you would, subscribe to our channel. So kind of like supporting a small business, subscribing to our channel really helps out. So YouTube has an algorithm, and things like subscribing, liking, or leaving like a sentence comment really does a lot for my video, and it helps the algorithm say that this is worth promoting. Without likes, without comments, and without subscriptions coming from it, it makes it seem terrible, and they will actually hide me from someone who maybe even searches for Mixol. So if you want to support us, it really does make a big difference. And then if you're actually enjoying the content as well, and you want to be alerted to new live videos, like I am going to be staining these colors in a shape just like that very soon, it will alert you of my next live video that I plan to do either tomorrow or the next day. So getting back to the whites. Oh, sorry. Yeah, turn on notifications for that if I didn't say that. So glob 1, glob 2. Oh, that was kind of like a small glob. All right, there we go. All right, so I got 2 globs, and now I need my 4 drops. Cool. Moose Boards confirm that those are General Finishes colors. General Finishes is another company that's pretty supportive. I don't know, you kind of fall through the cracks with them sometimes. So like they'll post like your really awesome work maybe. But yeah, tag Mixol USA or General Finishes in any of the work that you're doing with the 2 of them. Honestly, like companies that support their makers, I don't know, it means a lot to me. So and it kind of gets you really exposed, and a lot of times whenever you get those shout outs, you'll see like a big surge in your social media, which eventually, just by growing your social media, it helps with algorithms again. So like potential customers are just exposed to you. So it really is a high value, even if you don't care about social media. You might as well just kind of like try to get what you can, and those reposts help. So then if you do start looking, you're wanting to grow your business, hopefully you've already started build that following with their help. All right, so I'm mixing this up, and this is like, I don't know, I'm seeing like kind of like a mint green here. Like I was saying though, what you see in the cup isn't necessarily anything close to what you're gonna get. I am using a different edge of this sponge every time I use it by dipping it in the color, because otherwise you're gonna get kind of like a contaminated shade there. So, all right, this is looking pretty mint green actually. So, all right, so like I was saying, white didn't really take super well, And this is not taking super well either, but it is definitely a very pastel-y green that's kind of brought it way down towards white. That is kind of like a minty green. This kind of reminds me on the previous shade when, oh, whoops, I didn't bookmark white and green. All right, if you're tuning in for white and green, I've actually just done my 2 shades. Jump back about 5 minutes for the beginning of that. My bad, I forgot to bookmark. Okay, so this kind of reminds me, this result where it's showing me a lot more white than I expected. It's very similar to whenever I just did Nutmeg and didn't really have enough green and it kind of looked army green. So I am going to add 4 more drops of green, and I think we're going to get ourselves a little bit closer to this. It's just not going to be successful because it's going to be like pastel-y. So that's what I'm expecting. And then the question again about how far this goes. So if my math is right, I'm up to like 20 drops maybe of this stuff, and I'm not noticing a difference in the I don't know, like the level of that bottle. Of course, I'm not doing very much, but I can tell you without much guidance that my first time using Mixol, I went through an entire bottle testing and never hit my color. So so hopefully this will help guide you a little. All right. That was kind of a weird transition there. I don't really know how to describe that. It almost looks like bluer than it was. So I'm just going to try it again and add 4 more drops and just see if we kind of get there. While I know this isn't going to hit the color that I'm looking for, it's still not getting to that area that I was wanting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try 4 more drops though, and just kind of see what kind of effect we've got there. Because if you want to use a white for some other color you're looking for, hopefully this will help you out. All right. So this is kind of getting closer to like what I would say would be like kind of that baby white method. So this definitely has that like kind of painty look to it. Like it just looks creamier and all that fun stuff. So let's just say I set out on this course. I want to hit this color. So far I know I'm kind of failing. But I'm going to try one last thing. I'm going to add a little bit of black because like right now, my non-scientific educated mind is thinking, oh, it's the white that is causing this. The opposite of white is black. Let's just see what's going to happen. So I know it's going to darken it up a little bit, and I think that's going to help us out. I don't think that colors really work that way where that's like truly an opposite and it's going to like undo any sort of effect. I think I'm going to have this kind of like more opaque shading to it, but I think I might be able to get this in the neighborhood of what I want. So I don't know, let's try out 2 drops of black because I'm at 12 of the green right now. So this white seems to be requiring a little bit more, but I gotta say I'm pretty impressed with this white. I'm very stoked. I need to freaking get another set that white will work into, and I might just use my buddy Stetson as an inspiration there, and I'm gonna force that shade in on somebody. kind of weird. It almost got whiter. So that was odd. I'm just gonna label this though, and we will do a close-up. All right, so here we are looking at the raw unstained wood, okay? And then I use new pine, and as you can see, it's not much of a difference there, but it is a little bit darker. The only time you're ever gonna really see this is when you're staining a light wood. So this is Baltic birch, which is pretty much like white. And so it's gonna work out well whenever you move to like a regular birch, like whether it's domestic or some other import that has a richer grain color, that will probably disappear. Then I added 4 drops of green and I got this. Then I've got 4 drops of green with 3 black. And so it did kind of take a bit of a turn towards the color I'm looking for. Here I screwed up and I used my first green mix. This is what I meant to stain there. This is Nutmeg. So if you can compare those, this is significantly darker, a little darker than I wanted. I added 4 drops of green and it turned into this muddy army green. It's not looking too great. Then I added 8 drops, and according to my email, Joanne was very correct, and this did seem to start taking over the color, and I was able to adjust that pigment, and I've got a very good green. This is my winner so far, I think. I will probably do a big sample of that. This is just looking like a little clear to me, and I might try this as well, and I'm just gonna mix some more new pine. Or shake up that can and just recreate that mix. Then I restained this here just so I could have a side-by-side comparison of that change by adding, going from 4 drops to 8. Then I did white, and as you can see, it's not a significant difference, but it is pretty light, you know? Then I added 4 drops of green, and this is like the difference of going white versus a stain. Then you got 8 drops, then you got 12 drops. 12 drops, we started getting to a usable shade. It kind of seemed a little bit less white. Then I added some black there, and I think that started kind of counteracting the green a little bit, and it just let the white come back through and do its pastel thing. So I don't know. That was my experience, but this is obviously nowhere close to where we want, and I'm stoked on those two. I'll experiment with those, but I think this is going to be my guy. I might even add, I might kind of further that testing and add a couple more drops of green, but I think I've done enough for the live where we can move on to yellow. All right, so I got the exact same thing here. Clean up my mess a little bit. Let's do some yellow. All right, so I know I'm gonna trash the white green, so I'm not gonna add a lid, but these two are kind of contenders, and I may just reuse that mix. So I'm gonna put that cap on there, and that should help me get a couple days, which is all I need out of it. All right, I forgot my bookmark again. So what I just did is I did a close-up of all of the green. So jump back about 3 minutes and you should see that. So yeah, I got a comment, Swizzies likes the nutmeg with 8 drops, and I'm agreeing with you for sure. So all right, so now that you kind of know the process I just went through, I think I'm going to go a little less explanation on it, but I will just kind of repeat that here. So first I'm going to be starting out with my new pine. So where I'm kind of doing a different color, like I don't really need the consistent result anymore. I'm going to just make sure I really shake this so I can get, I don't know, I did not like how it just felt a little too clear, like I wasn't even seeing the pigment from the bottle. It's kind of odd, so I'm just gonna try to get a good shake on that little guy. All right, so yeah, that's kind of fun. What do you guys think we're gonna get on this? So we know new pine is not gonna have much of a color, and we're gonna get pretty much what comes out of the jug. I do have this dot here. I'm not gonna be able to get it too close, but the dot on top is lighter than the yellow that you're seeing through the bottle. So you will get that pigment pretty much showing through on its own. I've got a vote from Moose Board saying that that he thinks new pine is going to be new pine and yellow is going to end up being the winner here. So this is what I'm going for. I'm going for kind of like a rich yellow. I kind of agree. I don't think there's a chance that nutmeg is going to be a contender, but I do think we're going to have to add something to the new pine to get us to a rich color, because like the one I'm looking at is pretty faint on the top of the bottle. So I did my 1 dollop, and I got my 2nd dollop there. All right, let's do these bookmarks. All right, so I've just done my 2 globs of new pine. It feels like I got enough in this big bottle. I honestly, like, I don't know. I'm a weirdo. I just like the satisfaction of seeing all my colors, so I'm just going to keep using the big bottle so I don't run out of the small one and have a hole in it. So I got a question about, like, would I need to change the amount that I'm doing? Like, so basically, oh, son of a biscuit. You know, ugh. All right, for the sake of, I think I've got just enough cups before I run out. So that came out a little less controlled. It was a bit of a stream. I feel like the whole benefit of this video is I am trying to do a side-by-side or apples-to-apples comparison of this. So I am going to redo that because I did too much yellow that I think I would have too much trouble duplicating that amount. But anyway, just got a question asking, like, will I change, you know, basically like how much Mixol I'm doing once I add more stain to do my boards. So I wish I had included a mock-up. I didn't. I will have a mock-up on my live, like tomorrow or whatever. So I will have a shape very similar to this in this Kohler, and it's going to be pretty large in the center of the board. So I'm looking at an area like this, and it's only on one board. So realistically, I think what I make today will be enough to do it. So I'm not going to be changing any sort of ratio, especially like when I go back and I start testing this. I will be increasing it a little bit, but I'm not going to need a whole lot to begin with. As far as the green, I'm going to have the city name and then the team name, and those are going to be in print. That's probably going to fit within my hands here, and then maybe a little bigger up top. So again, that quantity is going to work just fine. So it's kind of hard to say. Like, your first time out, just go really light on everything. But like where I've got like a few sets under my belt with it, I would not call myself not like really knowledgeable on Mixol. I had to read off the screen as to what Mixol is. I'm honestly being surprised by the results I'm getting a little bit. Like, I'm not super comfortable. I'm not in a place where I should be able to teach people about Mixol. So I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I'm just trying to like share my experiments with you guys. But once you do a couple, I think you'll be comfortable enough that you'll know, like, hey, I'm going to be using new pine with this yellow, and maybe you'll just try to add like maybe what you need. I would probably aim a little less than what you need, because fine tuning wise, you're probably going to end up with more than you expected. So sorry, I don't think that really like clearly answered your question, but I hope that helps. All right, so I got my 2 globs. Let's try again and see if we can get some drops. Or otherwise, I'm gonna have to. Oh my God. Okay. It was a little more, but I do believe that was pretty close to 4 drops. Whoops-a-daisy, you know? You know, and honestly, another contender on this one might end up being white. Because like if I do get a true light stain, like new pine, that we know now that the pigment's going to be staining on its own. So I'm not going to get like a really bold yellow. It's going to be kind of like this faint, clear, transparent yellow, I think. So we will see. But I'm gonna maybe bet you moose boards that perhaps white. All right, so I'm not gonna forget to do my sample of new pine here. Dude, that stuff is so faint. Jeez. Modelo. Goes down great. Open to sponsorships. All right. So, it's pretty faint. Definitely yellowing at first, like when it's globbed on, it kind of does look like it's gonna have a shot at it. You can kind of see like soaking up the sponge. That's pretty accurate. It does have a bit of a mustardy tone to it, which basically to me is like maybe some yellow with brown, which is really weird because there's really not much brown to this stain. So that's 4 drops of yellow. I'm gonna go ahead and ramp that up. It doesn't seem at this point that I need to darken it at all. Really what I wanted to do is bring it back towards yellow. So let's try 4 more drops. All right, cool. I got another uncontrolled drizzle that I would say is in the realm of 4 or 5. Call it 5.5. So when I'm mixing this, like I'm also just kind of looking for spots that I didn't even come in contact with. Like I mean, it is a textured bottom on this cup, so you will, like if you're not like really intentionally going through that groove at the bottom, you've just got raw new pine down there, and you haven't really been mixing in the stain the whole way. So a good healthy mix is definitely kind of crucial. All right. So the heavy amount that I just put on, definitely looking good. Wiping it off, definitely looking too light. So it's very translucent. Side by side, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the 4 drops, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of getting there. It's lighter yellow, but really, like I'm just seeing too much wood grain. So I'm gonna try out another like 4 drops and just see what happens. All right, cool. Uncontrolled drizzles. It's gonna be a hard thing to duplicate, but I'm pretty sure I can come close. Still just looking super light, and honestly, like yeah, it's kind of hard to tell from shade to shade. It's getting there. I don't know. It's just a little too translucent. I think I'm gonna kind of stop there. I don't know. It's just not really doing the trick. It's close though. It's just faint. So let's cover that up. Just for a little, a little change up. I don't think nutmeg is going to be a contender. I think that's pretty fair to say. So I'm going to do nutmeg off to the side here. Because I want to maybe get my two contenders. My hypothesis, if you will, is that white and new pine are going to be our contenders. So we'll get the nutmeg out of the way. Kind of brain farting here. So Scott has let me know that I'm gonna get some pipettes, I think, for some very precision mixing here. So while I'm counting everything out, really it's just for your all's benefit to know that I'm like, kind of getting an even amount in each thing. So normally I would not be wasting this many condiment cups or this many stir sticks, or really, like, I would definitely not be paying that much attention to how much Mixol I'm putting in. Just kind of control it a little bit, but I think he's just busting my chops. But I just wanted to kind of stress that I don't think you guys need to be counting drops or anything. That's new pine, son of a... I think I just got a magical color there by putting that right over new pine. So I'm gonna do another sample of just nutmeg, but I think the new pine actually lightened that nutmeg into like a shade that I would really like to use. Yeah, all right, no, that was nutmeg. It just kind of came out light. All right, so I'm since I did that test twice, just to kind of keep it the same going across, we know that 4 yellows wasn't even enough for new pine. I'm gonna just go ahead and skip to 8 yellows, so that way it will be in a line for the other colors of having 8 yellows. So it'll be a little easier to compare there. So we just won't waste our time with the 4. Sweet. Felt pretty darn accurate there. Wow. All right. Now that I think about it, I'm going to go ahead and go back and bookmark. Whoops. All right, forgot to bookmark again. So if you're watching on playback, go back about 2-3 minutes and you'll see the beginning of the actual staining of nutmeg. Sorry about that. So anyway, I just did this. It is very goldeny. I would say that this is looking very Prairie Wheat-ish. It is definitely very brown. But I'm gonna change it up a little bit. So what I wanna do is just label things before I forgot. So I got new pine, I got 4 yellow, 8 yellow, 12 yellow. Over here, I'm at nutmeg. And then I had a new pine nutmeg, it actually is looking a little lighter. That might be in the neighborhood of cherry wheat. That could be fun to experiment with actually and see if I can make my own and skip Minwax altogether. I'm not a big fan of Minwax. Minwax, if you would like to sponsor me, I would happily take your money, but I would still probably use General Finishes. All right, so next up would be 8 drops, but looking at that, that is not gonna be a usable thing. We're gonna be using a lot more yellow, so I'm gonna add in, I'm at 4 yellows. I'm probably gonna add in 8 more yellows and just kind of see where we get. No, it's like exactly 8 right there. I got a single ha from my joke about Minwax, which means that it wasn't funny. So I will keep my super clever jokes to myself. All right. So this is an atrocious shade of yellow, but it's getting very yellow with like a tinge of brown. So I like that leap that I got. It went from like kind of a brown to a little bit of a yellowish brown to like yellow with brown. I'm gonna add in, I think I'm gonna say 6 more, no wait, 8 more of those. So I did 8 just there on top of the 4, so that's 12 yellow. So I'm gonna do 8 more, so this would be like 20 yellows. All right, it seemed like oddly lighter, but kind of like the same tinge. I'm just gonna do one more sample of that before we move on. I think I'm gonna add 10 more yellow. So we're at 20. I just want to see, you know what, I might go for like 12. I need a substantial change to see if that's even going to be a contender. I don't think it's going to be. I don't care if it really is going to be. But just for the sake of it, I think it would be fun to see how much correcting we could get out of something. So I forgot what I just said I was going to do. I'm going to add a lot more. I remember that, but I forgot how much. So we're at 20. Let's just kind of go, I'm going to go heavy because we're not going to really need like an amount. So that was substantial. I'm pretty sure I just did another 20 for sure. That's going to be, this kind of decision is how you waste the Mixol. But by the way, if you are subscribed to our channel already, really appreciate that. But if you go into our channel, not just like our video list, but into our channel, we actually added a few new moderators in our group, the Cornhole Collective. And so you're gonna have Bold City boards, Moose boards, and 208 boards. They're all 3 just really talented board builders with their own YouTube channels. We are kind of, as a group, making like a real big push on trying to generate more content, but I would definitely follow them and turn on a notification. None of them have like a lot of videos going or anything, but like you're gonna see some stuff coming out, and you wouldn't want to miss anything that these guys are doing. So please check them out and give them a little follow. And then whenever I use those like little terms like moose boards and all that, that's also their handle on Instagram. So check them out there because that's really exciting and they really do have all their work posted there. So I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. All right. That is still a little brown, but it's a much bolder yellow. There's just no chance that one's gonna work out. So you lost, Nutmeg, you lost. All right, I'm gonna remember to bookmark this one. All right, if you're watching this in playback, I remembered my bookmark this time. So we're gonna be doing white, which I do believe is gonna be a contender. So we just ruled out Nutmeg. That does not look like I'm gonna get like a nice good yellow, no surprise. Kind of some of the stuff that you would start figuring out from experimenting is you're just gonna know that ahead of time. So sweet, let's get some fresh foam. Go ahead and get that untainted white so I don't screw that up again. My condiment container. It's pretty close to a drop there. So starting out with 4 drops, definitely looking pastel-y and I don't know, like a yellow creamsicle if that ever existed. That's kind of what it looks like here. Then I wipe it off and it kind of went back, so I'm going to try to get some more on there. That is just wiping off. That is not good. So we are not in the realm there. Go for 8. So I know I need a lot more, but I'm not going to do that yet because I do believe that white is going to be a strong option. I believe new pine's going to be a strong option. So this is why I count my drops though, is because I want to see the side by side when I kind of get close, and it'll just kind of help me really accurately compare to, I guess, maybe. I guess that it really is kind of useless, but at least for the sake of comparing how the stain impacts the colors, just for, you know, that gain of knowledge, I guess it makes sense. But very pastel-y. But the yellow, it's definitely staying yellow like whenever I remove it, which is cool. So definitely worked pretty good. I just know we're gonna need, like, I don't know, I'll probably end up doing a spare test on this one to get it closer, because I don't think it's gonna get there with just a few drops. So yeah, I have a question. Mark was wanting to know, like, you know, whenever you get into the higher amount of Mixol drops, like, do you see a decrease in dry time? So, I I mean, like the package says, I mean, Mixol is not going to dry out on its own. But in my experience, like even when I mix like a full cup, the whole freaking cup still like will just dry out as if it were just staying on its own. So I also have Moose in here. He uses Mixol, and he's saying he doesn't see a difference either. But it shouldn't impact anything with like your work time. If that is a factor for you guys, like I don't know if you are more on the artistic side of wood stain and not really in cornhole. Cornhole, it seems that it is a rule as a customer that you have to be in a hurry for it. So typically we are like kind of under the gun, and we kind of get into our work times. Typically with the stain, it's like effectively dry after like 24, a little over 24 hours, where it's just going to be like kind of locked in and good. And you could even like layer like a next lighter shade, except for like black. Black has like an increased work time. I would say it's like 48 plus, if not possibly more. It could kind of smear with poly and all of that fun stuff. But anyway, it shouldn't really impact it. Can you use orange with the white to get to the yellow that you want? Just wondering. You know what? I'll try that out at the end because I'm going to use this cup unless this is a contender. If it's a contender, I'm going to have to do like a separate test for you, but we'll see. So I'm quite certain I just mixed more yellow in there, and I'm going to go ahead and stain that. I have like the memory of a goldfish. And Modelo probably has no impact on that, so continue buying Modelo. The preferred beer of the Cornhole Collective. That weird voice kind of made it sound like it didn't taste good, but it was delicious. Very refreshing. Hydrating in this hot shot. All right, cool. That is definitely yellower than before, so I think we're at about 12. Okay, so 12 is as far as we got on the new pine. So I am gonna look at this. This is very pastel-y. It is kind of making me think that maybe this is not gonna be a contender and that Moose was correct. So in a chance, or in a effort to prove him wrong, I am going to double down here. I think I'm gonna add about 8 drops. All right, cool. So basically, I've gone way more yellow than, or maybe not way more, but I've gone heavier on the yellow with the white now than we did with the new pine. And then, unless it's like really close, I will try that orange for you, because I appreciate you coming and watching my video, and I appreciate you subscribing and turning on those notifications and sharing this video with another woodworker. All right, we're gonna do another one. Oh no. Let's see if I can salvage some of that. All right. All right, so I forgot what I've said to you guys, but we're at 20 drops. I think I'm gonna do another heavy dose. All right, so I would call that like 10 more drops, so I'm at like 30. So this is pretty heavy on yellow, but the thing that I'm really chasing here is it is opaque though. I don't even know if I'm using that word right, but basically it's holding on to the yellow. It's not as transparent, and I would not call like just a yellow stain that color. Like I don't think that's gonna really happen, so I don't know, I'm excited about this. I just want to see what will happen. So excited. I don't know. That's looking pretty freaking good. I mean, at this point, you are pretty much just using like a lot of Mixol. So to go back to that question of how long is this stuff gonna last? Well, if you're mixing a color like this, it's not gonna last very long at all. Dang, that's close though. What I'm gonna do though, because I did get that question about like what would orange do. So I am gonna try to recreate it in this little bit here. So, all right, nah, that's not quite. All right, so I got like my 2 globs. All right, so I think whenever we were asking that question, I think I was closer to like 4, or I'm sorry, not 4 globs. I was at like 8 to 12, so I'm gonna call it 10. So I'm gonna do my 10 globs or drops real quick. And then the question was, would orange drive us back? So I've got orange here. Again, it's in German, but this is like orange. So little German lesson there. You already know some. All right, and then let's call it, so I just did, I think I did 10. So let's try like 5 of these and just see what happens. Man, the small models really are nicer to work with. They're a little more expensive, but realistically, I'm not just doing a couple drops, so I don't mind the drizzle. But like for this purpose, geez, these are really nice to work with. All right. So just in case you're curious, like Mixol also has cards. I think they might be included in like certain packages if you get like the multi-packs and stuff. But if you were to reach out to Joanne, who is Mixol USA on Instagram, she will, I think she'll just send you one. If not, like she'll send you one like if you buy something. It's been a while, but I know I got one directly from her. Because I didn't have a store near me that was selling it, but basically it kind of has like a color chart, like a little bit like paint palettes at the store, or yeah, like it kind of gives you like an idea on how the colors work. There's this that would be helpful maybe with white and new pine, but like if you are gonna find some of those like just slightly darker light shades, it's gonna kind of lose a bit of its meaning there. But just I just want to call out that that's available. All right. So to answer your question about the orange, I would say it's unsuccessful. All right. Man, got some messy freaking fingers here. All right, so if you are watching this on playback, I remembered you again for the bookmark. So I'm walking over, I'm going to show you some stuff up close. I'm pretty much going to be done with this video really soon, so if you have any questions, go ahead and enter it now. All right. So here we are. So we have the raw unstained wood here, and then you have new pine, which is just barely darker. You add in 4 drops, it gets pretty yellow. If I didn't have this like a little build up here, it'd be kind of hard to see that transition to 8 and then again to 12, but it is getting bolder yellow. But like as you can kind of see, it's like a lot of grain coming through. It's really just not getting the boldness that I'm looking for. Then we got to the white, and it's really struggling to get taking some of the yellow. Here, full disclosure, I did bleed underneath and I had to wipe it off. Then it looks like I touched it with yellow fingerprints, but this is the accurate color here. The rest of it, like, this is trash. That's accurate. Then we had like 20. So this is just nowhere close. 30 really got me there. And I think that's actually the direction I'm going to go with. So I left that there. I'm going to put a cap on it. And then I had a question about like adding yellow to kind of see if it would kind of change the direction. Added too much. So I mean that definitely kind of added orange, but like it wasn't gonna do anything to help me out, I don't think. Then we had my nutmeg. And if you were watching at the point that I tried to lay down raw nutmeg or plain nutmeg, I had accidentally done like just a touch of new pine and then realized my mistake and I tried to do nutmeg over top of it and I created a nice lighter shade. Then I have my nutmeg, then I did 4 yellow, then I did 12 yellow, then I did 20 yellow, and I'm at about 40 yellow right there. So pretty much that is a ton of yellow. You can see 30 with the white and I'm just not even coming close. So that stain just really kind of worked against me. So I don't know. That pretty much does the trick. So I don't know. I think we may have surprised ourselves because for me, like if I was not doing a video with the hopes of sharing like experimentation and helping you prevent the waste that I just did, I would not have tried white, and white ended up working out well for me. So I'm gonna go with white in that 30 yellows. So I'm gonna put a lid on that before I forget. But it just kind of really helps you out. I would suggest personally, like consider looking for cherry wood by Minwax. Minwax is now sold at Lowe's, and yeah, check them out as far as a good alternate to new pine. I'm just looking at this nutmeg, and unless I'm going for like a super dark like shade of a color, I just don't know that that's really going to be hitting in the zone that I'm wanting. I think it's just a little too dark for me. So I mean, you can see the impact. Oh my Lord, these lids are hard. Good God. But moral of the story, where's the lid on the green that I liked? I think it was this little guy. Nope, that was new pine. All right, sorry. I just don't want to accidentally ruin my sets. So we did get to see that having an existing color to be tinted by the pigment really does make a big difference on your stains. And just with my, like I feel like this is a reasonable selection of stains for kind of like a hobby woodworker. So like, honestly, like those were my two closest shades. I really am, I don't know. I would love it if somebody knows a shade in between. I would love to know because honestly, I got called out by Moose. He listed a few shades that I'm gonna have to just. I think I'm gonna pick those up. I think it was like an American oak and some sort of. I'm not seeing them anymore. Anyway, there are a couple shades, but yeah, it looks like I honestly just kind of botched the it a little bit just by doing too dark of a shade there. But the yellow really kind of has too much pastel going on. I'm sorry, not the yellow. The white has too much of a pastel effect for it to really help out much. But this yellow, I just do feel like yellow is just kind of like a weak color. So if you're using it in something transparent such as stain, I kind of feel like the stain or the grain showing through is just not going to really let you see the yellow. It'll be kind of like a yellowish tint. I don't think it's really going to hit there. I think it needs something a little bit more opaque for it to take hold. So I'm going to go with white because that seemed to do the trick for me. But like if I were trying to do that with like a blue, pastel blue would not have worked for the sports theme set that I had with the navy blue star. If you check it out. And I did do some samples of that. Last little call out. So if you do follow us, we have another video called, it's like 4 stains for touching colors. And I cover different stain methods. What I used here today is called remasking. And that's where you're going to cover up a stain and kind of like prevent it from being touched by like another touching shade. So here it just helped me compare 2 colors, but often on a design, you would need to have those, 2 colors next to each other in and it can be kind of a challenging method. There is another method called polyover, and I'm going to experiment with this in my next video of doing polyover with a magic eraser. So if you're not familiar with polyover, the idea is I lay down a first shade and then I'll hit it with some aerosol poly to protect that shade from being smeared by another wet shade because it's not dry, and because that would actually just smear it and erase it. And by kind of releasing that method out in like a video, it's being misinterpreted by some people as being kind of like this magical thing where you can just put any two colors next to each other. So I'm doing like green and yellow. I don't believe I actually have those two colors touching in my design. So why wait till tomorrow? Okay, so I'm gonna do another test real quick. Okay, so I am going to be doing a test using the polyover method. So polyover is really only, in my opinion, is only good for layerable colors. So layerable colors would be two colors that are very similar. For example, a light brown and a dark brown. So in this test, I'll show you that by using new pine and then nutmeg. So basically the idea is I'm gonna lay down a shade, I'm gonna kiss it with some aerosol poly, it's gonna dry real quick, then I'm gonna be able to wipe the next lighter shade over top of it. So technically they do impact and interact with each other. Since there's that coat of poly, the second shade will really just be tinting the poly, but that still will show through as like a combination of colors. And so basically, though, with them being layerable, they're just such similar colors. So by doing a light brown over a medium brown, the impact is it's still going to be brown. It's probably light. I don't even know it. I don't know what the impact would be, but it's not going to be noticeable. So it's going to be great. Then you've got non-layerable colors and stuff like that. The one I like to call out the most for non-layerable will be black and then yellow. That they don't layer well, and you don't get like kind of like a yellowish black. It is diarrhea green. So anyway, I want to do this test just to see. So it's my understanding on the other side of this wall, I've got a laundry room. From what I'm told, I have a magic eraser over there. So hang tight. I'm gonna have a couple sips of beer, grab that magic eraser, and we're gonna do a polyover method to see if a magic eraser will really help us. Because if you are trying to get two colors like this to touch, I wanna show you the effects of that with and without a magic eraser and with a Remask, so we can kind of see like what we'd be getting on all those. So hang out for me and we'll do that. But this is the end of the Mixol video, so if you don't care about this, then thank you so much for joining me. All right, so unfortunately I don't actually have that magic eraser. I apologize for wasting your time. Thank you all so much for joining me. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. If you have any sort of feedback, please just like leave me a comment and just let me know. I do plan to do some more live videos, just kind of like help just kind of share like at the speed of like how things happen and anything I can do to kind of make this better. I think a couple of comments I've gotten were volume. So I normally have a mic, but in a live video, this is a bit longer. So I am actually having to charge my phone to keep it from dying. So I'm just yelling a little bit more. And then the other thing is like kind of close up cameras. So I am working on, it's like just beyond my knowledge, but I'm trying to work on multiple cameras so I can have a close up of what I'm working on. But anyway, this is just very easy for me to just film without having to edit. And if it is, if it's got potential, I'd love to know if you think there's anything that we can do to make it better. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.